Good evening. Today is April 9th. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Newburgh and Large City School District Board meeting. As always, we welcome our community. Tonight we welcome also some people from the press. Going back to our founders, the press was one of the pillars of our democracy, and they keep an awful lot of people honest. So we appreciate you being here. Tonight, leading us in the pledge will be Mr. Levenstein. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silent meditation.
Okay, can we call the roll, please?
Mr. Bergarelli?
Here.
Mr. Doré?
Present.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levenstein?
Here.
Ms. Mineo?
Here.
Ms. Politti?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Okay, we'll move on to your section. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we will have students from our NFA Student Council share updates from their school. We have representatives from our sophomore class. Their advisor, Mrs. Rothman, will introduce our wonderful scholars.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, board and community members, for coming out. Tonight, I have Ryan, Annie, and Elena to share with you some of the exciting things that are going on in our buildings.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. We are the sophomore class representatives of the Student Council. My name is Ryan Orsino, and I'm the sophomore class president, and I attend the main campus. Here are some of the NFA highlights from the past month. April 5th was the Day of Inclusion at NFA. Students and staff wore red with our Yak Club to support all students and make everyone feel included. NFA West celebrated Mr. Mac Day on March 22nd in honor of Mr. Ernest McDonald, who worked in the Newburgh and Large City School District for over 30 years. Every year, they celebrate kindness in honor of him. This year, students wrote kindness letters to staff, members, and their peers. Students from NFA West were nominated by their school counselor, Mrs. Lakia Stooks, to receive the 2024 Sojourner Truth Award. For the past 34 years, in honor of Sojourner Truth, Orange County Community College has celebrated its youth by awarding them for their achievements. NFA West attended the Fearless Love Shouldn't Hurt conference at Mount St. Mary's College, which was designed to educate youth on healthy relationships and decision-making. The P-TECH program celebrated their 10th year on April 3rd. Over 100 students from the 3 NFA campuses went to GAMS to have an opportunity to teach students grades pre-K through 5 in conjunction with the Junior Achievement Organization. This was a great day for all involved. Thank you.
Good evening. Oh, wait, 1 second. My name is Annie Liu, and I'm the sophomore class secretary, and I attend the main campus. Student council members with advisor Elva Grossman have reinvigorated the Sonia Dixon Garden initiative at NFA North. Students, faculty, and staff are all chipping in to get the beds up and running to start planting. Classes and individual students are growing seeds to get a head start on the process. We won a $500 Grow More Good grant to help with the supplies. Proceeds will be donated to the local food bank, and students will earn community service hours for their time. 7 NFA youth and government students were invited to participate in Orange County Government's County Service Day. NFA students shadowed family court judges, the county clerk, the Department of Aging, and the county legislature. This is an annual event that students get to learn more about how local government works. Students from NFA Maine, North, and West presented Hairspray, the NFA Spring musical production, on March 15 and 16. The production was directed and choreographed by Mrs. Mandy Clifford with music direction from Mr. TJ Sweats and Miss Karen Sheeney. Mark Shaman, the composer and lyricist for the original Broadway production of Hairspray, attended a dress rehearsal and took time to talk with the cast and crew about his inspiration for the music and characters in the musical, as well as accompany a sing-along to You Can't Stop the Beat.
Good evening. My name is Elena Ruback, and I am a sophomore class senator, and I attend the NFA main campus. The NFA dance department will present their spring dance concert featuring student choreography on Wednesday, April 17th at 6:30 p.m. in the NFA main auditorium. The NFA Dance Ensemble will present a disco-inspired routine at this concert that they will perform later this month at Walt Disney World as part of the Disney's Imagination Campus. From the NFA Music Department, 3 students from NFA Main Orchestra will attend the Junior High All-County Orchestra pre-rehearsal on April 17th. These violinists auditioned and were accepted into this honors-level orchestra. This will be their first rehearsal with the group. On April 18th, the NFA Chamber Strings, Madrigal Singers, and select band students will perform at the Empty Bowls fundraiser event at NFA Main. This annual event raises money for the food bank of the Hudson Valley. The music department looks forward to supporting this event with our talented students. On April 20th, the NFA Main Orchestra Band and select Madrigal Singers will perform at the Music in the Parks Education Festival and enjoy the afternoon at Six Flags New England. The groups are hopeful for a positive rating on their performance, which will improve our preparation for our concerts in May. Empty Bowls is back, our annual tradition at NFA to help the many hungry people in our area. All proceedings go to the food bank of the Hudson Valley. This event will take place Thursday, April 18th, 2024 from 5 to 7 p.m. at NFA Main Campus in Cafeteria B. We will serve a simple meal of soup, bread, and salad while being serenaded by our music department. The donation for each meal is $18, but you can keep the ceramic bowl. Thank you, and here's a video to showcase the material we just shared.
Thank you very much. Next, we have 6 students who competed in the regional spelling bee for 7th and 8th graders. Among these students is Eli McNair, who won the regional bee and will be competing in Washington, D.C. in the national Eli will be competing in the national D.C. area, in the national Washington, D.C. area, my apologies, in the national spelling bee. Dr. Freeman Mack will introduce these students.
Thank you so much. The Scripps National Spelling Bee is a heavy and huge endeavor. So proud that Newburgh gets to send a student there this year, and he is a dynamite student. Our middle level director, Miss Maria Pushkanter, really oversaw this thing that I kind of voluntold with love. So I would love for her to come up and just introduce the students. Thank you. Come push.
Good evening. It is my honor to congratulate our students who participated in the Regional B this past March, where they competed against surrounding districts. There were 25 students who competed in all. Districts included Chester, Cornwall, Goshen, Minisink, and our student won. So I have to say that. Good job, Eli. So from South Middle School, Eli McNair. Congratulations. Also from South Middle School, for participating in the Regional B, Hillary Armand. From Heritage, Sophia Bartley and Quinn. And also from Heritage, Quinn Tracy. And from Temple Hill Academy, Sebastian Guzman and Chase Burrell. Okay.
I do want to say a couple things about Scripps and about the spelling bee, period, because we have bee fever, and we need to believe in the bee and what it represents and what it does when you have be fantastic, be wild, be wonderful, be crazy students. I say all that to say on May 20th, the New Bergen Large City School District will be hosting their first spelling bee for grades first grade through sixth grade. It'll be at NFA Main. It'll be an amazing, fantastic, fabtabulous bee night. So you have to be there. I will also say that with Scripps, it really is for students in 7th and 8th grade. It starts with a blind spelling test. So we started with a blind spelling test, 20 words? 25 words. From that, then students were chosen from that. We dwindled it down, and then those students went to compete in the Regional B. So there were actually 2 from each middle school. 2 of the students chose not to participate. They were kind of shy, but bless them because they made it to that level. So we're really happy, excited, and proud of Mr. Eli McNair. Scripps National Spelling Bee starts on May 28th. It goes through until May 31st. The Regional BOCES is paying for Eli and his mom to stay at the Gaylord in Maryland for 6 days as he participates each day. Go, Eli. So this is the beginning of believing in the bee and believing in everything that our go-backs do every day. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and we have no doubt that Eli is going to represent us well. And for the other scholars who also participated, we are extremely proud of you. Thank you for taking the stand. Thank you for representing our amazing district, and there'll be more to come. Thank you. Mr. DeRay, I'm hoping that I can have a few more moments before public comment begins to address our community.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you. I recognize that it can be frustrating to find the courage to speak during public comment and then not receive a response. I know that the speaker may be curious for information, and those listening may be interested in the district's response as well. I also know that some public comments cause confusion in our community, as the speaker may not be privy to details and may inadvertently spread inaccurate information through their comments. Tonight, before public comment begins, I would like to respond to some comments that were made during the last meeting. Moving forward, I would like our community to know that my team and I will do our best to respond to public comments when the board returns from executive session each meeting as we are able. On agenda items. In response to comments on agenda items presented at the last meeting, conferences. There was a question about the Innovative School Conference in Las Vegas. There will be more information about that conference, and it will be shared at the next board meeting. iPads. The purchase of 160 iPads, as well as Apple Care support and protective cases, will replace test kits that cost approximately $150,000 annually. The purchase of the iPads was approved not to exceed approximately $65,000 and will not be at an annual cost. By investing in iPads, the district intends to move to computer-based testing, rather than paper and pencil, which will save the district significant money over time. Non-agenda items. In response to comments on non-agenda items presented at the last meeting, boys track. The executive team, athletics and communications directors, coaches, and track parents met to discuss their concerns more specifically. Parents were provided clarification on the various NECSD athletic department procedures, NECSD athletic program, methods to improve communication to parents, allocating of funding, state-approved events, Parents Booster Club, and hotel fees. We would like to thank the parents who took the time to voice their concerns. Bombville. There have been changes to personnel throughout the district for various reasons, and there will continue to be changes as needed. All personnel decisions are made with the best interests of the scholars of our district in mind. At first, the change may be difficult, but eventually, adjustments are made to adapt. With regards to comments made about Bombville School, staffing of faculty in any school building is the responsibility of the building leader. Also, with regard to Bombville School, there have been several comments throughout the last few months about the literacy program that is utilized in our district. We have seen schools using this program with fidelity and, as intended, have seen noticeably steady and sustainable improvements. To that end, Bombville School is currently receiving additional training on using that program to the full extent that it is intended. We look forward to seeing improvement in literacy results at Bombville once those trainings are utilized and the program is being used as intended. Safety. I addressed several comments that arose regarding safety at the last meeting. Please refer to my update at that meeting for information. State review. Finally, there seems to be an odd rhetoric that the state needs to take over our district. To be clear, the state is involved and has oversight of every school district in New York State. NECSD actively engages with the New York State Education Department for reviews of our processes and procedures, approaches to instruction, support to special populations, and funding resources. It should be highlighted that our district is often utilized for piloting new ideas and accountability systems by the state because of our complexity. Currently, the district is collaborating with the following New York State Department divisions: Office of Bilingual Education, Office of Special Education in collaboration with Educational Partnership Regional Partnership, Office of ESSA-funded programs, New York State Education Department, Office of Post-Secondary Access, Support, and Success, Higher Education Opportunity, PTEC Smart Scholar Programs, NYSED, 21st Century Community Learning Centers, Bureau of Contract Management and Program Development, Division of Child Care Services, New York State Office of Children and Family Services, Office of Educational Design and Technology, Office of Family Community Engagement, Office of Early Learning. Additionally, there are multidimensional reviews of data that are submitted by every single district. The data that is submitted to the state by our district is done so with fidelity and then regularly checked and verified by the state. Thank you for that time, Mr. President. My team and I will prepare to respond to tonight's public comments and share some information following tonight's executive session during my update.
Thank you, Dr. Manning.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to public comment on agenda items. We have 3 people signed up for public comment. Mr. McCoy will call the 3 people.
The first person signed up to speak is Mr. J. Ryan Lamar on the budget.
Ryan Lamar, New Windsor. I did not expect to be back in this room so soon. Part of the reason I resigned from the board was because of the unproductive state that we'd fallen into due to the scapegoating of certain members. I had hoped that without that barrier, whatever members of the community that found themselves on the board would be able to step up, ask the hard questions, and demand not just answers, but thorough, informative answers. I came down here tonight to call out in person something key that I noticed in the budget presentation. On the slide titled Budget Adjustments, Staffing by Bargaining Unit, there's a footnote that includes 2 statements relating to positions being cut in this budget. The first is, quote, includes reduction of 102.5 positions, mostly via retirement/attrition and vacancies. I would hope that someone on the board would inquire about how the services that were being provided by those employees are going to be provided moving forward. Will class sizes increase, and will the services available to students become limited? Our students should not be affected by the loss of frontline workers. The second part of this footnote reads, 78 positions were funded by American Rescue Funds in fiscal year 24 that were not planned to be maintained in fiscal year 25. 3 questions that I hope some member of the board sitting here today will have the strength to ask this evening. 1, was it known that these positions would be eliminated after the depletion of the federal funding? Was the board informed? Were the faculty and staff in those positions informed? And was the public informed in budget projections at the time? 2, how many of the 78 positions that were funded by the American Rescue Funds were previously existing positions that had previously been paid for from the general fund? And 3, what were the monies from the general fund that had previously been used to fund those positions used for, and why aren't they still available? I've asked repeatedly about our district management of American Rescue Plan funds and received no substantive answers. I'm also here to put on record my dismay that one of our district's most talented administrators has been placed on administrative leave due to statements she made regarding findings about Tier 1 instruction. We cannot continue to have this district run in a reactionary way, and we have got to stop the vendettas. Lastly, I'm here at this board meeting to announce, in the place that democracy for public education happens, that I am once again hopeful that I can be on the side of solutions. For that reason, I am announcing my candidacy for the school board.
Point of order, sir. You cannot talk about candidates or campaigning at the podium.
I'm sorry, I actually was not aware of that. No, I really wasn't.
Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Tracy Wallace, and that's on policies.
Hi, my name is Tracy Wallace. I'm a parent of 4 kids, 3 are still in the district. So in reading the agenda for today, my question is about Resolution 6.2. There's several policies attached. Newburgh Policy Committee, there's 4 attachments, and one of the attachments, my question is that for this, under the sexual harassment for students, in the note, it says we suggest that this policy 0110 be an overarching statement against sexual harassment. Oh, great. Address sexual harassment of students in policy 0115 DASA, employees in policy 0110.2 and title 9 in policy 0111. My question is, if the sexual harassment is moved to DASA, does it affect the identity of the person? How does this affect the students if the sexual harassment is taken out in this policy, and placed in DASA? I just would like to know information on the difference between the two and how it would affect the students. And that's it. And then there was another changes in the annual district election and budget vote. There were some changes. I just didn't understand what the changes were and what changes you were making. And because it states here what you're going to resolve a lot. There's a lot of numbers there. So I just wanted some clarification on it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person signed up is Mr. Tom Dubetsley on the on the fireman's tax.
Okay. Good evening, members of the public and members of the Board of Education. My name is Tom Dubetsky, and I serve as a commissioner for the Middle Hope Fire District in the town of Newburgh. My purpose here tonight is to thank you for considering to support the volunteer firefighter and EMS partial tax exemption. I have been a volunteer in the fire service since 1978 and have experienced the growth and the need for volunteers and the training requirements that make it extremely difficult to retain volunteers. Volunteer service a forefront in most of the communities throughout New York State. I can remember getting out of high school and reaching the age of 18 and having to wait for an opening before I could even apply as a member. Today we live in a different world where economic challenges force many of our young people to leave the area in search of better employment, and the draw to be a volunteer firefighter is severely diminished or non-existent. Like many of the volunteer services today, we need to find a way to encourage membership by also finding ways to retain our members. Your support for this tax exemption is a tangible benefit that our younger residents can use as something that will provide immediate help to themselves and their families, and may be a factor that helps draw in new members while giving the incentive to keep those members and others. I would like to ask your consideration of another initiative that can help us in achieving new members from the high school ranks. Some of you may have heard of the Learn Not to Burn or Risk Watch programs. These were fire and general safety programs that were presented in many elementary schools throughout the country through the National Fire Protection Association. The purpose of both programs was to integrate safety training ideas with the regular classroom curriculum. An example would be that a program about smoke detectors could be made part of a math or reading lesson, with the purpose being that the classroom teacher or local firefighter or both could teach a safety behavior while not losing time from the core subject material needed to educate the student. This program was also implemented in Bonneville School several years ago with much success. We'd like to propose that Newburgh Free Academy consider providing representatives of our local volunteer fire departments with the opportunity to work with interested students 15 years of age and above who may be interested in being a volunteer or may have aspirations of being a career firefighter in a limited program where trained instructors come in to teach them the basics of being a volunteer firefighter, in the hope that their interest will go towards their joining a local department at the age of 16 years old. New York State has now approved local fire districts with the assistance of state funding to pay firefighters who have successfully completed state-approved training classes. Now, how this correlates back to Learn Not to Burn and Risk Watch is that all firefighter training relates to basic and advanced high school training: reading, mathematics, science, chemistry, mechanical skills, team skills, leadership, the study of history and tradition. But most importantly, confidence, camaraderie, diversity, belief in yourself and others. This initiative has the support of the City of Newburgh Fire Department. If you have any questions, I would like to leave you my cell phone number at 845-568-7573, or you can call any Town of Newburgh, Town of New Windsor, or Valesgate Firehouse. Thank you for your time and be well.
And thank you very much for your service, sir. We have no one else signed up for agenda items. We're moving to non-agenda items where we have one person.
I believe Ms. Wallace signed up. Did you sign up for both, ma'am?
Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Wallace, non-agenda.
Hi, Tracy Wallace. I want to talk about the Exceptional Learners Program in the district. My daughter graduated NFA last year. Right now, I'm having difficulties in transitioning her to employment and college. It's to my knowledge, after she graduated, about the program that you have, that children can stay here up to age 21. It was 22 during COVID. I don't know if it went back to age 21. She repeatedly tried to go to her guidance counselor numerous times, and the guidance counselor kept saying that she was prioritizing the students based on who was taking the regents. She said, your mom can advocate for you. There was just a lot of miscommunication with her and the guidance counselor. In transitioning out when she graduated, I was given Access VR information and information about the Bridges program. I recently went to OCC for the Bridges program. It's a really great program for children with, for people with disabilities, for employment. It's a 2-year, Monday through Friday program that OCC offers employment training. There's also hybrid in Middletown. They offer a shuttle where Kaylee can go if she's going to do hybrid. The problem is that they do not have these same resources that she would have had if she was able to do that same program in NFA. And if she was able to stay here, she would be able to have an ICT classroom with 2 teachers, including one with from special education. Unfortunately, because she graduated, she missed that opportunity. And I think it's unfair that Kaylee was not given that opportunity. I was not given that information until after she graduated. I think the transition process should be looked into. I think the Exceptional Learners Program is unfortunate that there was 111 individuals with disabilities in NFA last year, and only 57 graduated. And so I really think we need to work on the Exceptional Learners Program, the resources. I know advocates that would like to come here and present programs present present event nights so that they can work with parents, and if you can work with advocates. And the Bridges program would like to come here and make a presentation for students, but they have to be invited to come here. I wish you can really work with the Bridges program. I know Ms. Lopez is on the committee that works with the Bridges program. If you can please incorporate transition plans, the Bridges program, and work with people with disabilities so that they can be able to graduate. My daughter, she can easily get on Social Security, but she wants to work with animals. I encourage employment. I encourage that although you have a disability, mom works. I had to do my college, I had to learn during COVID virtual with 4 kids, and 2 from which were doing all sorts of things in each other's classrooms while the 2 teenagers were in their room and I was learning. We were all live, and I managed to do it with 4 kids, and I graduated, and I have 4 kids, and I have a job, and and I tell my kids, you have to advocate for yourself. I have one Lori in your nursing program who is doing well. So you do have really good resources. I'm not saying anything bad about Newburgh. This is the best place to get all the resources. But it's about getting those resources to the kids and to the parents and raising that level for people with disabilities and children with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no one else signed up for non-agenda items. Would anybody else like to speak on non-agenda items? All right, I'll move to executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for for the following purposes: employment history of certain pedagogical employees or corporations and the matters leading to the employment of particular individuals, collective bargaining under the Taylor Law, and to obtain legal advice from legal counsel. Can I have a motion and a second to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
15 minutes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levenstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
We will be back very shortly. We have a public hearing at 7 o'clock. Nicest things we've done is about to be done, and that's we're going to go into a public hearing for the volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers partial tax exemption. So if anybody has public comments they would like to make, now is your chance to stand up and make them. Okay. If there's no comments, the actual resolution is, it's on the screen, but it's also available on the school website in the board minutes. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I think we've done the best we can. Every exemption you could have, the lowest amount of years of service is in there, along with the highest percentage for exemption on your property. So we're very proud of the people. I know you're all firefighters out there. I could see you. We're very proud of you and very proud to do this. So we're going to move into item 6.1, resolution to approve volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers partial tax exemption. And I'd like a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this item at all? Okay, let's call the roll.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Yes. Mr. Harvey?
Absolutely.
Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levenstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
The item passes. Congratulations. Thank you. We are going to return back into executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for the following purpose: employment history of certain pedagogical employees or corporations and the matters leading to the employment of particular individuals, collective bargaining under the Taylor Law, CSEA, NTA, NSAA, and to obtain advice from legal counsel. Could I entertain a motion and a second?
Second.
Mr. Grant? Yes. Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levenstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo? Yes. Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
We will be back in about 45 minutes. Items.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on these items?
There was one question earlier asked about the policy that deals with the annual election. There's basically there's some changes that had to do with calling it the annual election instead of the budget vote. Very minor changes. Almost everything's still the same. It's just clarifying a little bit to make it easier if you're going to run for the board.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Any other questions or discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Grant? Yes. Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Levenstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes. All right, moving on to 6.3, resolution to approve policy on the second reading, Newburgh Free Library Policy 7501, use of meeting rooms. Could we entertain a motion and a second for this?
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Any questions? I think we're good.
Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levenstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to Section 7, Superintendent Dr. Manning, turning it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duray. As I mentioned earlier, I recognize that it can be frustrating to find the courage to speak during public comment and then not receive a response. I know that the speaker may be curious for information, and those listening may be interested in the district's response as well. I also know that some public comments cause confusion in our community, as the speaker may not be privy to details and may inadvertently spread inaccurate information through their comments. Beginning tonight, my team and I would like to respond to some comments that were made during public comment tonight. Ms. Roaring, can you please respond to the questions regarding the budget?
Yes, Dr. Campbell. There was a question regarding the loss of these positions that were funded by one-time funds. Some of the positions are currently vacant and have been vacant for some time due to difficulties in filling them for various reasons. The federal funds were intended to provide additional supports to students to catch up when they return to in-person learning. Those positions were not intended to be long-term. Information about the American Rescue Plan has been posted on the district website since that funding was received. The district has given several presentations around the use of those funds, as well as reached out to our community through a survey to seek feedback on how those funds should be used. Budget presentations on February 14th, 2023, March 16th, 2023, and April 11th, 2023 clearly outlined to the board during the budget development process that the funding of those positions were one-time funds. We shared continuously that there was not a plan to sustain these positions after the funds expired in September of 2024. Additionally, on June 6th, our Director of Grants provided a presentation specific to the SRSA and ARP funds, and we again shared the positions that were in those funds, as well as the expiration of those funds, and noted again that there was no plan to retain these positions past the expiration of those funds.
Thank you very much. Ms. Moriarty, can you please answer the questions regarding fire safety?
Absolutely, thank you. So each October, Fire Safety Week takes place, and our schools engage in fire prevention education with the fire departments in several activities. The firefighters come to the school, they teach them about stop, drop, and roll, they teach them what to do if the door is too hot, how to get low. They put on their full equipment and the masks, and they crawl around on the floor so the kids will know in the event not to be scared of that. They put their principals and some teachers up in the big truck up, and they shoot the hoses. It's a really positive experience for the children and the fire department to build relationships and talk about safety. And they also have pamphlets and education for families. However, we will connect with the gentleman who presented tonight to see how we can continue that important information to share with the students and the families.
Thank you. Mr. Forget?
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit. We had Mr. Howard and Mr. DeRay had an opportunity to meet with some of the local firemen and emergency technicians across the district. And as a result of that conversation, our team engaged in a conversation with one of the fire commissioners, and then I followed up this evening. And what we're going to be doing is assemblies at each of the campuses of the high school by the fire commissioners and fire department and EMS workers to share with our student population volunteerism and what it means to become a volunteer so that they can assist us in the community in those particular areas. And we started the conversations to schedule those sessions before we went on break. So we're going to continue and follow up, but by the end of the year we'll have those assemblies to hopefully recruit and get our kids involved in those particular programs. The other thing that we heard was that there's a desire to get involved in curriculum design at the high school. Well, we have a new CTE building being created. So I spoke to Ms. Valentino, who spoke to the fire commissioner that was here from Middle Hope Fire Department, and Ms. Valentino will be connecting C&I with them to talk about how we embed that into some of our core academic programs, but also our CTE program. So it was great to hear from them tonight. And thank you, Mr. Howard. Thank you, Mr. DeRay, for making the connection.
Thank you, Ms. Moriarty. Thank you, Mr. Forget, Mr. Howard, and Mr. DeRay for your leadership. We appreciate you. Mr. Bayer, can you please answer the questions regarding exceptional learners?
Thank you, Dr. Manning-Gamble. So the questions regarding transition, I will discuss that with the parent individually, as will our division. But broadly speaking, the district has sponsored an annual transition fair for a number of years under the direction of Doris Lopez, our transition coordinator. Last year, we partnered with FACE, and we provided it was huge. If anybody who had gone and seen it, we were all there that night. We had 30 or 40 representatives throughout the community. We had about 10 classrooms set up with individual sessions around post-secondary opportunities, scholarships, school-to-work programs, technical schools. ACWA was there. Orange Community College was there. We had two cafeterias with vendors who were helping families understand the community supports that they're entitled to. If their students have autism or have particular developmental disabilities, and there's certain care coordination, and these private agencies now vie for the services of parents who get the money through different eligibility processes. So it was a very large-scale event. Doris says this has been her passion. She's been doing it for a number of years. This year, we've moved in a different direction. We're continuing to partner with FACE, and we're through the Parent University, which Dr. Freeman Mack has a different name now. It's Family Connect or something like that, but we're Parent Connect. So we're sponsoring an event on April 11th at South Middle School. All South Middle School parents were invited to it. It's a morning event, 7:30 to 8:30, to talk about transition services as students enter high school. May 3rd, we're doing another one through South Middle School, and this is again in the partnership with the State Education Department, where we're going to talk about graduation pathways and transition. All students in special education are required to have a transition plan in the year they turn 15. It's a very elaborate process, so we started that process in middle school. Elizabeth DeFrancesco is here from South Middle School. She's been working at Regional Partnership Center. They actually sat down during social studies this year, and every student at South Middle School did an interest inventory, and they have our special education students have a digital transition plan that now lives and follows them all the way through high school into college. There's an area we're actually very proud of. We also, at the end of their career, we are required by law, only for students with IEPs, by the way. This is not for students with 504s. That's a different process, or students who are in general ed. They have different ways in which these things are disseminated through the guidance department. But for special ed students, we're required to have an exit summary, which is a meeting at the end of their senior year, where that transition plan, which is very elaborated in the IEP, is revisited. We give them information regarding to Access VR, to Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. We confirm what their transition plan is post-secondary. Do they want to go to college? Do they want to work? If so, here are the avenues to do so. So the plan is then given to them, and they're often used by the colleges then as the plan that they use to provide disability services in college. And finally, we're working with the State Education Department this year. I mentioned publicly we are heavily regulated. This is an area we have been a focus. The State Education Department, Kathy Sinclair, has been working with all year long on transition and making sure that we are compliant. She's been down here, I think, 3-4 times already, and we already have a corrective action plan in place. So it's an area that I think is very well elaborated in Newburgh. So.
Thank you, Mr. Bayer. Now moving on to my update. This week, we celebrated Eli McNair and 8 of our 7th and 8th grade scholars who were eligible to compete against 9 surrounding school districts in the regional spelling bee this year. Eli McNair, a student from South Middle School, will be competing in the National Spelling Bee in the Washington, D.C. area. We wish Eli the best of luck as he represents our school district in this prestigious competition. I had the honor of celebrating the 10th anniversary of our NFA P-TECH program. This program is a prime example of how our scholars and our community will rise to challenges set forth in front of them. This program demonstrates that our scholars are capable and that they are often brilliant. Our children have the hard work, resiliency, and determination to achieve success when they are given the opportunity and the proper support to do so. Everyone who has contributed to this program is a shining example of the Goldback Standard. With that, I am pleased that our team is in the beginning stages of filling 2 additional early college high school programs that allow our students to earn a minimum of 25 college credits from SUNY Orange or Mount St. Mary College in the areas of game programming or teaching education at no cost to our families. Interested 8th grade families should visit the district website and complete the application by Friday, April 26th. Last Friday, we launched our very first Friday Night Lights program for middle school scholars who are interested in academic, social, and physical activities after school on Fridays. It was so nice to see more than 100 teenagers engage in activities throughout the evening hours on the very first night. It was such a great event. Also on Friday night, I was invited to speak at the boys basketball end-of-year banquet. It was heartwarming to see athletes of all ages being recognized by their coaches, family members, and fellow teammates for their contributions to our athletic program this winter season. By the end of this week, we will be sharing information about our code of conduct, and we will be seeking volunteers from our community to review and provide suggestions for that important document that guides decisions about behavior throughout our school year. Please look for that on our website and in your inbox. Next week, we will be sharing information about summer programming. Please look for that important information to help your scholar continue engaging in academics throughout the summer months. This is just a snapshot of the incredible things happening around our district on any given day. And I'd like to thank some of the trustees who were able to make it out to our various events. Thank you very much for attending and supporting our students. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Campbell, you mentioned the program for Orange County Community College and Mount St. Mary's. You said that there's a deadline, there's a short deadline because it's April 24th. So what are we going to do to ensure that all parents of 8th graders know about this? Not just putting it on the website, not just saying, I'm not saying you're doing this, but I don't want to be able to have to say that, well, we thought they knew or they heard about it. What are we going to do to ensure that every parent of all 8th graders are aware of this opportunity? Because this is an incredible opportunity. And I would hate for some people not to really understand the importance of it and get their child registered in the allotted time.
Thank you, Mr. Howard, always for your advocacy. We appreciate it. Dr. Freeman-Mac?
So we have a few avenues that we can utilize to communicate with our 8th grade parents. One is that we can place it in our newsletters with our 8th grade parents as it relates to our moving up ceremonies, and the other plans and activities we have to celebrate students. We can also share it with our Gear Up coordinator, which targets our 8th grade cohort as a whole. And we also have town halls with 8th grade students only. And then also our parent coordinators in all of our middle schools can also support that and share that information with our parents. And we can even, send out emails directly to the parents of 8th grade students.
I think that would help. And that's all the excuses right there. That covers everything. Thank you.
So I attended that information seminar, and Mr. Rothman was there, and he said that anyone can email him to find out about the timeline and about what's required and all that. He was very informative, and I'm sure he would be to any parent that contacted him. Mr. Rothman.
Yeah, Mr. Rothman has had 2 information sessions with parents as well.
That's it. Thank you, but we will certainly continue to push that information out per your recommendation. Thank you. My turn.
Next, we'll move on to 7.2, proposed budget. Also, Dr. Manning.
Thank you, Mr. DeRay. Myself and Ms. Roaring, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance, will present the 2024-25 proposed budget. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Education. This evening, we are going to share the proposed budget with you. So we're going to start by going through some of the items that we'll cover. We're going to talk about financial management, compliance and procedures, the superintendent's budget priorities and equity in our budget. We'll share our current revenue projection with you, review the tax levy, present the proposed budget, and also the multi-year projections. There have been some comments made regarding financial mismanagement in this district, and so I wanted to address those. The district has a number of steps that are required for each district in New York State. So we'll start with each district in New York State is statutorily required to undergo an independent external audit each year. These audit reports dating back to fiscal 2018 can be found on the district's website. We have been issued clean audits each of these years, which means there's no corrective action required. Additionally, last year we did an RFP for a new external auditor, and we expressly sought out responses from firms that would increase the testing sample size, welcoming the additional scrutiny of our books and bringing forward a new lens with which district financials would be reviewed. Also, each district in the state, well, not each, we are subject to an annual internal audit risk assessment that evaluates processes and procedures, not just in finance. It also looks at facilities and maintenance, data management, cybersecurity, information systems, pupil personnel, and safety and security as well. Before any claim for payment can be processed by the Finance Office, the Board of Education's independent claims auditor must review all associated documentation for each claim and approve that payment. If that payment is not approved by the claims auditor, it is not processed. And the claims auditor provides the board with a monthly report of any findings in her reviews as well. When we look at financial compliance, we have implemented proper segregation of duties within the finance team. An example of that is someone involved in accounts payable responsible for processing payments is no longer allowed to participate in the purchase requisition or PO process, which would be a direct conflict. We've also established a business office webpage in compliance with state regulation that's populated with a number of required disclosures, including those annual external audits, our transparency reporting, and contracts for excellence budget information, to name a few. We have implemented a new chart of accounts in accordance with the State Comptroller's Office, School District's Accounting and Reporting Manual. We've updated the Board of Education's financial policies to ensure they reflect our current practice. We have strengthened our purchasing procedures by ensuring compliance with general municipal law, particularly around RFP and RFB processes, such that if the dollar amount for specific commodities will exceed those thresholds, we are ensuring that those processes are followed. We're also using purchasing cooperatives and doing more direct solicitation for our RFPs and RFBs with an eye to increase responses and drive competition in our pricing. The State Comptroller's Office also has a fiscal stress monitoring system where they look at each district across the state each year. Since 2013, Newburgh has not received a designation, which means that we are in a solid financial position. If not, districts are designated as susceptible to fiscal stress, in moderate stress, or insignificant stress. Lastly, looking at our financial procedures, during the 22-23 school year, we developed standard operating procedures relative to, there we go, payroll, accounting, purchasing, and accounts payable to ensure the work is being done in a consistent manner. We've strengthened our cash handling procedures in terms of cash and check movement between buildings. I don't know what's happening with this one. We've also established position control as a management function in the finance office to make sure there's a true segregation between finance and HR around the establishment of additional positions once the budget has been approved. We're providing multi-year projections as part of our budget development process. We're continuing to move towards equitable allocation of resources across our schools, and also, again, established proper segregation of duties. There we go.
Thank you. So the priorities for us for this year: literacy for all scholars, supports for our English language learners. We know that that's our largest population of learners, and so we want to ensure that we're continuing to provide support for our English language learners. We also have a focus on our exceptional learners to ensure that they are literate and they can participate in school and beyond. In terms of our budget, we wanted to assure you that we provided equity in our budget. Our building allocations are an amount per student based on building enrollment. What does that mean? That means we combed through every single building to ensure that we were providing resources that were equitable. We did not do a blanket staffing. We wanted to ensure that all staffing matched the allocation in the student population. We're reviewing our resources that are available for our English language learners, our in-district programs for special education to ensure that we can support all of our learners. We continue to have data-driven staffing, especially in the areas of academic intervention supports to provide our students with additional instructional strategies. We are continuing to establish our student and staffing ratios by grade level and looking at the minimum course enrollments for electives at secondary level. Now, what does that mean? That means we are being fiscally responsible and ensuring that we are not running classes that are below enrollment. It's not responsible. We're not saying that we're taking away options from students. Well, we are ensuring that we're running them and we have the opportunity to fill those seats. If we cannot fill this seat perhaps in 1 year, perhaps we will offer that offering in another year. So those are the types of things that we're looking at. Continuing to look at staffing ratios for support staff and administration to ensure that we can be fiscally responsible in the district.
So when we look at our current revenue adjustments for fiscal '25, based on the governor's proposal, we received a modest increase in state and foundation aid of $2.4 million. We have state categorical aid increases of approximately 8.5. Touch it again, it's going to go too far. Nope. Proposed use of one-time funds and restricted reserves at $10.9 million, and we do know that the February database was released, and if they were to use that to inform allocations, the district might receive an additional $3.2 million in foundation aid. This is not me.
We're good now, I think. Well, one's working.
So we wanted to, once again, look at the different revenue categories and make sure that it's clear that the local revenue is not just from our tax levy. It also includes payments in lieu of taxes, utility taxes, use fees, interest earnings, which we've benefited from the increased interest rates significantly this year. And then looking at the state revenue, it's not just foundation aid. We also have categorical aids. Our federal revenue is primarily through Medicaid reimbursement for eligible services provided by eligible staff. And then noting that our appropriated one-time funds is fund balance and use of restricted reserves is permissible. I don't even know what to do. So we've updated our chart throughout the budget development process for restricted reserves and fund balance, and you will note
That's not working. That's what we will note.
It really does tonight. Okay, so we indicated that we were at a planned use of $10.9 million. Here you'll see that is a use of assigned or appropriated fund balance at $7.5 million, which currently has a balance in it of $13.4, so that's significant usage of that category. We also have use of restricted reserves across 5 of our different reserves as is permissible.
No, on the other side now.
So we're reviewing, again, the tax cap calculation that we shared with the board previously. We're looking at a 3.8% tax increase, or $4.2 million. At the last meeting, we shared this as a rate increase, and this time we wanted to share that as looking at an estimated annual increase year over year. So when we look at the estimated tax bill for a house assessed at $300,000 in fiscal '25, it would be an annual increase of approximately $168, or approximately $14 per month. When we look at that for a home assessed at $500,000, we are looking at an estimated annual increase of around $280, or approximately $23 a month. It's very important to note that these numbers are preliminary. We still have not received the final assessed values from each municipality's assessor's office. We also are still waiting for the equalization rates to be finalized by the New York State Office of Real Property Services. Okay, looking at our projected revenue in the pie chart. It's a total of $358.2 million. At the top, you'll see the use of appropriated reserves and one-time fund balance. To the right, in the blue, you'll see the local revenue sources, which is approximately $122.7 million. And then in the orange area, you'll see a total state aid estimate of $224.3 million. Next slide, please. In this table, you'll see it's color-coded to match the previous pie chart. So those revenue codes that are highlighted in blue represent local revenue sources. Those highlighted in orange represent state revenue sources. Those in the gray at the bottom are the federal, and lastly, the yellow are the one-time use of reserves and appropriated fund balance. Next slide, please. This again just looks at it by category in a table format. You'll see in the top we have increased our local revenue by $4.9 million. This is the tax levy as well as increase in interest earnings with some offset by a reduction in our prior year BOCES refunds. We also had adjustments in state aid of approximately the $2.4 million in fund balance we talked about, in addition to categorical aid adjustments. And another area of significant increase is our use of appropriated fund balance and one-time reserves, which is a total of $10.9 million for next year, which is an increase year over year. It's an increase of $6.8 million. Go ahead.
So we wanted to remind you that much of our expense is within our compensation for our faculty, staff, and administration. This includes all positions, teachers, guidance, social workers, psychologists, every single person that touched the needs of our students. Our employee benefits, including retirement system contributions, health insurance, et cetera, that's all calculated in this large expense driver. One of the things that we looked at as well is our student transportation. All of our elementary schools and secondary who live 0.5 miles and out of district up to 18 miles is also part of our expense. And you will see later on in the presentation that we've represented some numbers to reduce that cost. Our out-of-district tuition, our foster, our exceptional learners, we are compelled, we have to transport those students, and our debt service, we've completed our construction and our construction work that's well underway.
Next slide, please.
Our continued mandated expenses, we have our tuition for our BOCES. We spend a large amount for BOCES, and those are items that we are looking for and how we can bring some of our students back if we can support the needs of our students in our district. We also have our special education programs, our English as new language services that we must provide to our students, our testing services, insurance, our liability, and the list goes on. We have, these are our mandated expenses that we must pay for within our budget.
Next slide, please. So we looked at budget adjustments from a personnel and a non-personnel perspective. And in our non-personnel assessment perspective, we've looked at use of a number of the different software licenses. And this was a joint effort with the Division of Curriculum and Instruction and our Division of Technology. We've determined that we'll discontinue a couple of licenses to save us about $90,000. We've also looked at the distance of non-public transportation, and we're proposing to bring that back to the regulatory limit of 15 miles, which is estimated to save us $320,000 in our transportation. We've made some adjustments to our BOCES services request for a $210,000 reduction. We've modified our E-rate local share, which will not impact our E-rate program next year, but we've pulled that back by $50,000. And then we've looked at reductions in supplies, travel, and contract services across various departments at $446,000. So we've got $1.1 million in non-personnel reductions. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through the numbers, and then I'm going to let Dr. Maine Campbell talk a little bit more about the process that was used to determine these reductions. So when we look at the various bargaining units here, we have a reduction in total of 102.5 positions. These are mostly via retirement, attrition, and vacancies. We are not anticipating a number of layoffs here. I believe our estimate right now is around 12. It's important to note that 78 positions were funded through the ARP funds in the current fiscal year that were not planned to continue after that. Of those, we filled 67, and 53 are being abolished.
And just to go back one. Thank you. That's good. Just want to reiterate that, as Ms. Roaring stated, we are, go back. With our complex district, we are reducing very minimal positions, and our layoffs will be minimal at most. I believe we are at approximately 12 across all of our bargaining units. So we have approximately 2,000 folks on our staff, and we are reducing by 12 positions in total. So the process to do this by bargaining unit, we met with every single school principal. We looked at the staffing requirements. We looked at everyone's allocation in terms of teachers. We looked at the programs, and we wanted to ensure that we were supplying students with the resources that they needed. And that was how we were able to reduce our staffing by those numbers. One of the reasons we were able to do that was we looked at, we walked through the buildings and we met with individual principals, and we went through their staffing lists building by building, and we, in some instances, walked our buildings to ensure that we were looking at real-time staffing and students.
Next slide, please. So when we look at our budget projection by category, you'll see again that our compensation is the largest driver in our budget because our personnel in front of our students are critical to their success. So that is estimated at $159.2 million. The associated employee benefits are estimated at $112.7. It's important to note that we are required to provide benefits to retirees. This is not just our active personnel. Our transportation is just under $24 million. Our tuition is just over $27 million for out of district. That includes BOCES, private placement, parent placement, charter schools, and foster tuition. We have an estimated debt service expense of $12.3 million. Again, our total is $358.2. Next slide, please. So we've been sharing throughout the budget development process that Newburgh is subject to a couple of different restricted funds within our foundation aid total. So when we look at that total foundation aid amount, it's not all available to us to spend any way we want to. So our first mandated set aside within foundation aid is contract for excellence. This annual set aside amount was increased in the current school year, fiscal 24. We won't know until after the final state budget is adopted if they're going to make an adjustment again for fiscal 25. So currently we're planning on the $13.5 million, but we'll make adjustments later as needed. This program was developed back in 2007-8 as part of the state budget. We will continue to focus in the 4 areas that the district has focused in for many years, which include time on task, middle school and high school restructuring, full-day pre-K and kindergarten, as well as model programs for our ELLs. Next slide, please. When we look at the model programs for ELLs, we're sustaining 23 ENL teachers. In the middle school and high school restructuring, this year we created 4 career and technology teaching positions at the middle school level that we will be sustaining. We are also continuing 10 secondary assistant principals and 8 secondary guidance counselors. Next slide, please. For time on task, we're continuing 4 instructional technology facilitators, 7 positions supporting academic intervention services for our students, 6 social workers, and 4 library media specialists. And relative to full-day K or pre-K, for us, this is totally dedicated to full-day pre-K. It is 5 pre-K teachers, 22 pre-K teaching assistants, transportation expenses associated with our pre-K students, as well as supplies and materials for the program. Next slide, please. Our other mandated set aside within foundation aid is for community schools. This amount is much smaller at just over $837,000. In fiscal 24, we chose to dedicate funds to create 3 parent coordinators. In fiscal '25, we plan to continue those, as well as continue the 3 social workers and 2 psychologists that have been in this set aside for a number of years. Next slide, please. So in the multi-year revenue projection, this assumes a tax levy increase in fiscal '25, and then looks at a 1% levy increase in fiscal '26, '27, and '28. It assumes a 5% increase in state aid, continued use of appropriated one-time funds, and a stable Medicaid reimbursement amount. And you'll see year over year, it's approximately $12 million increase in revenue. Next slide, please. When we look at this from a 2% levy increase, this again includes a levy increase in fiscal '25, and then 2% each year in '26, '27, and '28. All other assumptions remain constant, and you'll see that that year-over-year increase is around 14 to 15 million. Next slide, please. When we look at a multi-year expense projection, this is based on our current proposed budget, so if there are adjustments to that, this would change. But at this time, we are estimating compensation based on contractual bargaining agreements, our employee benefits. Again, the year-over-year increase of the biggest driver here is our health insurance to our active and retired employees. Transportation has an annual increase as well, as does out-of-district tuition, and our utilities, which is found in operations and maintenance. So we are estimating roughly a $20 million expense increase year over year, each of the next 3 years beyond fiscal '25. Next slide, please. So when we look at our gap projection based on that 1% annual tax levy increase beginning in fiscal '26 and going out those 3 years, you'll see that the gap starts at $11.7 million and goes up to approximately $29 million. Next slide, please. Taking a look at this with a 2% annual tax levy increase, again, you'll see that there continues to be a gap in the out years, but it's $7.6 million to $19.7 million. So there is a significant difference in that gap with the increase in the tax levy. This does show that there continues to be a structural deficit in our recurring expenses as we go forward, and we have work to continue to do on that. Next slide, please. So our next steps, if the state budget is adopted before the board is needing to act on April 23rd, we will update that revenue assumption. And we will ask the board to adopt a proposed budget on April 23rd to make sure we meet our SED mandatory filing deadline. Next slide.
Thank you. Questions?
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Dr. Campbell and Ms. Roaring, so one of the continued questions I seem to get when I'm in the community or just from people in general, when we talk about the cuts being retirees, attritions, and stuff of that magnitude, and then we say that's not real people, it's not people that we're cutting, how does that impact classroom size and the scholars that were in front of those teachers prior to retirement? How do we eat that? How do we bring that in?
So thank you for that question. You know, I'm hoping that throughout our presentations and board meetings moving forward that we can clarify some of the misinformation that's out there in the public. So we offered a retirement incentive because what we knew was that when we received the monies, the one-time dollars, we started planning for attrition. We started looking at ways in terms of what our numbers were in our classrooms. We started looking at vacancies that we have not been able to fill, and we started looking at our programs. We would never compromise any student learning. We've been taking a really close look at classroom, looking at instruction, and looking at our course offerings. So our minimal cut of approximately 7 positions out of the classroom was really something that we've been looking at for the past 2 years. So that's never, ever something that we would intend to do, to move teachers away from students. We understand the importance, but we are also of the mindset we've been looking at this for about 2 years to ensure that we are doing this appropriately.
I think if I can just add a bit there, the other thing that we've consistently talked about is looking at how we equitably allocate our staff. So as we looked, for example, at Meadow and Temple, they're roughly both K-8 schools with similar enrollment. As looking at, say, their art teachers or music teachers or PE teachers, is there a disproportionate allocation of staff? And bringing that back in line with the standard, right, as we did that staffing allocation and setting those ratios. So that's another way that we looked at it.
And to piggyback on that as well, when we receive the one-time federal dollars, we utilize much of that money to provide additional supports in terms of positions. There was an explanation to the community that these monies were utilized for staffing, but they would perhaps have to be, we would have to reduce those positions because we were not able to financially continue to float them in the budget. You're welcome.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. President. So what I'd like to just make a couple of comments, and then I will let other people do their thing, and then I have more things that I would complain about. But so firstly, I do like that you used more reserve fund and fund balance to help offset the budget that was increased from before. So these are general dislikes that I've complained about basically every year that I've been on the board in reference to the budget process. So every year we compare the current year's adopted budget, what we're in now, to the proposed budget going forward. And my reason for disliking some of that is we've already made $6 million in adjustments to the current budget that we've added and subtracted $6 million. So I don't understand why we use last year's adopted budget, which was, in some cases, the figures were changed drastically. A second point is when the state budget is late, like this year, school districts must create a balanced budget without knowing how much aid we will be receiving. And I know that makes that harder for everybody when we're waiting for them to give the final figure. And this is a concern like Mr. Howard had. When cutbacks are required for financial reasons, it is okay if there's no layoffs, but my concern, like Mr. Howard, has always been, are we taking away opportunities for students when there are, we didn't lay anybody off, but we don't have that classroom there anymore. So that's my concern, and I will come back when other people have spoken.
I can say a little bit about that. I know we talked about that a little bit. We don't want to give you the impression that we're taking away programs. What we have done is we've looked closely at our offerings, and perhaps we are not able to offer that program because we do not have a robust program at the time. That may be something that we offer the following year. In terms of programming, we are offering additional opportunities throughout the school day for our students as well as in the after-school opportunities. So we are not taking anything away. We're looking at how to offer it and to be more fiscally responsible. You're welcome.
Ms. Mineo.
I have 2 comments and then I have some questions, but I'll give everybody else a chance in between. Thank you for the responses to my questions. Some of them were really good, and some of them were a little muddy, so I'm going to ask a little bit more. I went line by line and looked at all of the budget lines, and I'm going to ask about the budget code 2030-256. It's a large increase. It's $1.8 million, and it's about Chromebooks. I'll tell you what it's about. I'm wondering if we couldn't cut that in half and use $900,000 of that money for something else. I think that is a very large amount to be put into Chromebooks at this particular time in our history. So I'll let you respond to that.
Thank you very much. I'll have Ms. Peterson respond. Thank you.
So currently, the Chromebook program within the district, teachers utilize Chromebooks daily. I'm even trying to make sure that we have equitable access to Chromebooks for students that do not have the ability to purchase and from home has even expanded. It puts the district in a very uncomfortable position because Chromebooks, we have to make sure that the devices that students use also are in compliance with cybersecurity protocols. So Chromebooks, though they may work after 3 years, we still have to replace them. And this is also because the state in different programs, like when we do computer-based testing, you have to have certain versions of Chromebooks. So as much as I would like to say that that is not important, we try to also look for opportunities. I'm also always with Mr. Rothman trying to find other ways to fund. And if there is another opportunity or the district does get granted, I will take that opportunity to fund that. But technology has been an essential part of the daily instruction within Newburgh, so I definitely feel that those are resources, almost like a textbook, where students need to have those Chromebooks in front of them.
My comment is, it's very nice, and I agree, Chromebooks are important, and it's very equitable to give everybody Chromebooks. But cutting that in half would get us those teacher aides back in first grade. And to me, literacy is number one. It's always been number one. It's been number one for all the years that I've been on the board. So I think there are places that we could look still and tighten, and perhaps that's one. My second comment is the maintenance position. Again, those also, for the cleanliness, safety, and security of our kids, those are primary. And for our staff and, you know, all the people that are in the community that comes into the schools. So those two things are very critical for me. In hoping that, and looking forward to maybe getting a couple of $1 million from the state in increased aid, I would like to see what your priorities are, but I think the board in general should have some input in that. Where are we going to put those dollars back? We're going to put them back into the schools where kids are impacted, number one. And I think that's a big priority for me. So I'm going to step back and I'll raise my hand later after somebody else talks.
So I want to respond. You brought up some really valid points, and I want to honor that. So we reduced our facilities positions essentially by 3. One is an impending retirement. I think 2 of them are impending retirements, and we have 2 part-time cleaners. So one of the things that I want us to also remember is that when we received some of our COVID funds, we increased our staffing in facilities because we had to do a lot of disinfecting and things of that sort. We have not reduced much of the staffing that we receive. So I do believe that we are adequately staffed at this current time. We did not make these decisions in isolation. We worked with department leadership to ensure that we had the appropriate staffing in place. The other piece about the assistance, we take that very, very seriously. We know that the foundation is where students receive their optimal support, and we are looking at ways that we can continue to support instruction at the very early age, really pre-K2. So that's not taken lightly. When we looked at those types of opportunities, we have ways within the current budget that we can support students in early learning.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Dr. Campbell, And this is a very serious area for me as far as early literacy is so important. I understand what the issues that we're faced with in K through 2. So could you talk to what that looks like, the cutting of those TAs positions? What is that going to look like in the classroom? How is that going to impact instruction and understanding? That is our heaviest lift at that area, at the K through 2, because we want kids to be able to read by 3rd grade. We want that early literacy component to be a part of what we're indoctrinating in our district with our scholars. So talk to me about what that looks like and how it will impact.
So in terms of early literacy, some of the positions that we're looking at for our district is really going to be around literacy and numeracy coaching, really providing support to the classroom teachers, having more of a coaching type of instructional support, and really diagnosing our students and providing additional opportunities for them. So we are looking at early learning. We are looking at bringing back some programs such as Newburgh Basics. We're looking at many more literacy programs for our early learners, as well as the rest of our learners in our district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. So a couple of things that struck me on the first go-through of these figures was obviously the 16 first-grade teaching assistants that I don't know what that creates going forward, if it creates half-time teachers in each classroom, because I know we have more than 16 first-grade classes, correct? So I would wonder how the logistics of the cuts are there. So that was one. And the other one, and I'm going to admit that I'm biased on this, is cutting 5 music teachers and 2 art teachers. I've been through this before with this district and other districts. When music and art get cut, it takes years and years to build back. So I'm wondering how the logistics of 5 music teachers and 2 art teachers fit into the program, and I'm more concerned that I get that the state evaluates our school based on our math scores and our English scores. They don't base our value or worth on our music scores or how many kids get into all county or all state. So I get that sometimes is the section that gets picked on. So again, being the parent of a performing arts student, yes, I am biased, I'll admit that. And my hope would be about these two different sections. Every year we end up getting more when the state finalizes their budget. I don't know if you have a wish list set in place that you'll say this is what we can return or this is something new we want to add. I would hope that would be the case. I would hope maybe you might survey the group of people here that can possibly make some suggestions to you. But I understand that you have a tough job creating this, and hopefully the governor and the state legislature will come through with a hefty increase. Thank you.
I want to respond to music education and art education well rounds our student population. We have a very robust art program. I will not, I have seen the performances, they're amazing. What we've been looking at is how we're offering programs. So we are not taking programs away. We are being strategic in how we offer the programs to our students. So students will still have the opportunity to participate in all of those programs. We just have to look at the way we're strategically doing it, because there are instances where we can have a more robust music offering. And those are the types of things that we've looked at. Now, in terms of first grade teaching assistants, I would venture to say that that may or may not have been one of the things that we purchased with our one-time funds, and we are looking for ways that we can support early learners. So those are not things that we are going to be able to sustain, and let's say the governor does give us this money, some additional funding. The next year, we'll be looking at those same programs again. Right? So this is our opportunity to start to shore the district up and put it into a better financial position. And we've been looking at this for the last 2 years. We knew this last year. We started planning for this last year. That was part of the reason why we offered incentives, because we did not want to lay our people off because we value them. But please know that we've really taken a real close look at the programs and how we are delivering services to students.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just to speak on the fine arts and the music part, because I've had the opportunity the last month or two to experience some incredible work going on in our district with our scholars, with the programs, presentations, concerts, shows. It's incredible. So if I'm hearing you correctly, we will not be losing those opportunities. And I also read where you said that we will be folding in opportunities for lessons with what we have left, so it's not going to negatively impact the opportunities that are afforded to our scholars?
That is correct, and we are not folding our theater program. What we're doing is looking for ways that we can offer those opportunities, such as lessons during the daytime, as well as afternoon, after-school opportunities and extended learning opportunities. So that's what we're doing. We're not taking anything away. We are ensuring that we have offerings and we can manage our offerings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Levinstein and Mr. Howard just said. I've been in districts that have cut music, especially instrumental music, at the elementary level and the middle school level. And what happens is that high school becomes a third grade concert. It's just a beginning concert, which is not what we're used to seeing here in Newburgh. Having those music opportunities in our after-school and grant programs does not work for a lot of our students of color and a lot of our students who have to go home and watch younger siblings. These are kids that live for music. They live for the arts. So I really implore that we look at those programs and look at embedding them during the day rather than doing them after school. The second thing I'd like to say is, for me, the heart and soul of our district is curriculum and instruction. And I feel we've taken a very, very hard hit in this budget in the areas of curriculum and instruction. I think we really need to take a serious look at our other structures at central office and see if we can't maybe look at another department, another division, and look at enhancing our curriculum and instruction a little bit better. Because right now, that literacy, as Mr. Howard says, as you say, is the key to getting our kids a bright future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I see none. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving to item 7.3, the Newburgh Free Library budget presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Ben Gawker, Director of the Newburgh Free Library, will be presenting about their budget for the 2024-25 school year. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Campbell. I'm Ben Gawker, the Director of the Newburgh Free Library. I'm pleased to be here tonight to present our proposed budget for the 2025 fiscal year. Before I begin, I'd like to say you're going to see a dramatic decrease in spending on eclipse glasses. So if you have them, hold on to them. They're good again in 20 years. All right, we'll go to the first slide here. Or we'll go to all the slides. So what drives our decisions when we're making our budget and how we spend the public's money? First of all, the library's mission, and then the goals we've set out in our strategic plan. So the mission for the Newburgh Free Library is to inform, enrich, and inspire people of all ages. And how do we go about doing that? Well, we strive to accomplish this by providing, first, innovative, customer-centered services, collections, resources, programming, and technology. Two, a building that's reimagined to meet the needs of the community. We've got the great new Local History Resource Center and the Technology Hub downstairs. Three, expanded community awareness with a focus on outreach. Four, investment in staff, skill development and training. And five, creating a system of sustainable and diverse support. Today is National Library Workers Day, so if you see any of them, give them a high five or buy them a drink. All right, next slide. So this year, this past fiscal year, was a great year for the library and a great year for Newburgh. A lot of libraries across the country are still fighting to recover from the pandemic, but I think the story we're telling here in Newburgh is that we're not just fighting, but we have recovered. We have over 20,000 registered card holders in the Newburgh and Large City School District. We had 206,804 people walk through the doors of the library this past year, an increase of 16%. And a lot of that was due to the programming. We had 1,073 on-site programs with 12,247 children and adults attending, a huge increase of over 70%. So we're really responding to the needs of the community, and you're seeing it walk through our doors. We had 162 summer reading program sessions with 2,286 people attending, 384 digital literacy programs with 2,584 attending. The circulation of our print materials increased by 6.85%. Don't believe the hype, print is not dead. We went from 100,594 to 107,484. But we also had 111,440 successful retrievals and uses of electronic content, e-books, e-audiobooks, databases, things like that. We had 220 early literacy sessions with over 4,000 people attending. Our young adult librarians have been doing a fantastic job bringing kids in. The Ujima program that Melinda Ware volunteers her time to do here has just been fantastic. And part and parcel of the programming for children, we're seeing a huge increase in the circulation of children's materials by over 20%, from 35,402 to 42,584. And we've also seen close to 300,000 website visits, 279,137. So by and large, we're just seeing an increase everywhere, from attendance at programs, services, whether it's notary services we offer, and to collections. Some of the highlights, we can go to the next slide. Before our recently retired head of youth services, Lisa Kochik, left, she had applied, after years of applying, to the Library of Congress to be the host for our National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. Well, before she left her last year, we were awarded this honor. There are only 2 locations in the whole country. And so Meg Medina, author of Mercy Suarez, among other books, came to visit, Cuban-American author. We had a huge turnout. Hundreds of people came out. And it was a fantastic day out on the plaza. This is the kind of programming that our staff brings to the library, nationally recognized, and truly special experiences for the kids and families of Newburgh. Next slide. Something I get asked about every day: when is the town branch opening? And it's going to be opening very, 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 very soon, I promise. It's already outfitted. We have a beautiful mural in there that an NFA grad painted. It's colorful, it's cheerful. I was down there today moving bookshelves. I threw my back out, putting books on the shelves. I'm not taking workers' comp, don't worry. but it's ready to go. So we're just waiting for a sign, and then we're going to open the doors. This is National Library Week. I would like to be able to announce by Friday exactly when we are opening. But I think everyone's going to love it. We had the Friends of the Library through there, and they all approved, which is big. And they're going to buy us some houseplants for the area, too, so for the library. Next slide. We had our first library Comic-Con since the pandemic. So this is modeled after the big Comic-Con in New York City. We used the whole library. We had over 450 people attend, kids, families, Batman, but a lot of local cartoonists, illustrators, people who love comic books and comic book culture came through our doors, an all-day event. And it was just great to see this in-person, vital library alive again. So we plan on doing this again annually, year after year. It's tremendous what the staff does, what volunteers do, and what the public does with their own time to come and table at these events to make it really special again. All right, next slide. So our local history center, and we have the new room for it, was recently awarded an archival needs assessment grant from the Documentary Heritage and Preservation Services of New York. Now, this isn't particularly sexy, but it's important. What this work will do, trained archivists come in and they're doing a collection survey, and they're going to provide a roadmap for our librarians about exactly how we're going to process, preserve, and put forth conservation efforts for our incredibly valuable local history collection. So we have a new physical space, and now we're going to have collections to match it, and training for librarians. And again, this was a competitive process, and we won this award. Next slide. And this is truly something all the librarians and library staff are proud of. It's totally nerdy. But we conducted a complete collection inventory for the first time in 30 years. Why is this important? When you go to the catalog, you can trust what you see. If it says the book is on the shelf, we've put hands on every book, and it's on the shelf. And this is important, too, because we're migrating to a new ILS, basically a digital version of a card catalog. And if we didn't do this, we would migrate a lot of bad data. So it's going to save a lot of time for our techs. It's going to save a lot of time for IT. It's going to save a lot of time for library staff. And it was fun. Check it out. All right. So that's the good work we do. Now here's the budget part. Next slide. So here's a look at the comptroller's tax cap compliance calculation. At the top, you can see last year's levy with the tax-based growth factor and the allowable levy growth factor. So overall, what we come away with, including the employees' retirement system exclusion, is an allowable levy limit of $5,913,749. That's about a 3.2% increase. Our proposed levy is less than that. What we're proposing is $5,891,500. It's a difference of about $22,000. You can go to the next slide. So what you can see here is our tax levy history going back about 10 years. So what this year would represent is no new additional tax levy increase over the last year. And we're still able to provide the services, programs, and collection development that we do every day for the community. All right, next slide. And here's the budget breakdown. Outfitting a new branch takes money. But when I took over, we reevaluated and we stepped back from a 3,500 square foot space at the mall to a 1,400 square space on Plank Road. And so some of the expenses came down. The book budgets come down too. We didn't have to budget as much for books for the new smaller branch space. And this space honestly is going to work much better for us. In the exit surveys with the community, what we heard time and time again is what people want is an easy in, easy out place to pick up the holds on the books that they want. They don't want to have to come all the way into the city, stop down there, do some dry cleaning, grab a book. This space will accomplish that. But we're also hoping to be responsive and dynamic, and we're going to listen to the public and address their needs and kind of tailor the library, the branch, to what the people in the town and people of our service area want. So at the end of the day, you can see again the personnel and benefits, health insurance, salary increases. We're also, it's on the agenda tonight, looking to add a senior microcomputer tech position, which is going to give the library for the first time a dedicated sort of IT supervisory department head, which will help bring us into the 21st century. And those positions, they're not cheap. So the total proposed budget, $6,184,480, a dollar change of about $215,715. Oh wait, $215,750. There you go. It's late. Sorry, guys. And last slide is a picture of an awesome dance performance up here at the Kwanzaa event. And I'd be happy to take any questions. Feel like I raced through that a little bit. But, anybody?
Mr. Levinstein.
I don't have any questions, but I just have a comment, and I want to thank you for the work that you do in the library and your staff does, and it is an exemplary piece of work, our library system. Thank you.
That's so wonderful to hear, especially today. We had a big pizza party for the staff. And I got to say, I've worked in Brooklyn, I've worked up in the Adirondacks at public libraries, and this is a special staff. We have a great library because we have great people, and that means so much. Yeah. Yeah.
I too want to say we do appreciate all the work that you do. I was able to attend the Lunar New Year celebration with my family here, but I definitely want to know about Comic-Con next year. I didn't know about that.
All right, we'll get you on the mailing list.
Okay.
I'll get you a Batman mask. All right. Oh. All right, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Item 7.4, resolution to authorize the superintendent of schools to execute a contract with the Core Collaborative.
Can we get a reader? Can we get a motion and a second on the rest?
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré? Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you all so very much for your feedback. That concludes my items for this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manning. Next up, Clerk of the Board, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the agenda items 8.1 and 8.2 on consent.
All right, can we get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on either one? Call it.
Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré? Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? If you're interested in running for the board, you can pick up petitions in the clerk's office every day, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4. There's currently 6 openings that are going to be on the May 21st election. In terms of the next board meeting, April 23rd, a little housekeeping, that meeting is going to be moved from Meadow Hill currently. It's going to be moved to NFA main campus, and that notification will go out tomorrow. So the next board meeting, NFA main campus. Thank you. That concludes my items, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Number 9, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Good evening, Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the Human Resources agenda, I have 9.1 through 9.20 for your consideration on tonight.
Thank you. Would anybody like to separate out any of these items? We entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on any of the items? Mr. Levinstein.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, again, the Personnel Committee did not meet to vet the resolutions being brought forward tonight on the Human Resources agenda. So, for clarity for myself and others, I would like to ask administration if I have a correct interpretation of the resolutions coming up for a vote. Regular appointments, leave of absences, resignations, and rescissions. An NTA labor management settlement agreement. An employee termination. 2 negotiated supplemental memorandum of agreements. 1 with the administrators unit for a stipend for the night school principal, and one for the CSEA, with the CSEA, for an increased stipend for additional work. Creating the following positions: senior microcomputer electronics technician for the Newburgh Free Library, substitute microcomputer electronic technician's position, my brother's keeper supervisor position, stipend for additional supports for special ed work, and approve appointments or additional appointments from multiple funding sources for the following: HOH Unlimited Program, TSI School Leadership Teams, Empire After School Program, my brother's keeper men's club program, my sister's keeper club program, curriculum writing and professional development, rescind and approve spring athletic coach, rescind a Friday Night Lights after-school appointment, stipend for an evening high school principal appointee, extended school year supervisors, and tenure recommendations. Mr. McLemore, does this describe accurately the resolutions you are presenting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Cole.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Yes. Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
That concludes my items, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLemore. Before we move on to Section 10, the board would like to recognize Elizabeth DeFrancesco. She was in there as achieving tenure. Thank you very much. And one item that brings me sadness, I have to say, Mrs. Moriarty has announced her retirement. That was also in there, and we will miss you. Yes.
As you know, this is very bittersweet. We are going to miss you tremendously. You've been a steady hand in our district, and your value is insurmountable. We cherish you as the educational professional that you are. So we thank you for your dedicated service to our students. And please continue to do great work in your retirement. Thank you. Thank you. Lizzie, may I please see you? Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
I want to say my great thank you to you, Miss Andrea Moriarty. It's going to be a quieter Board of Education without your loud voice. And quieter for our kids. We're going to miss you a lot. Thank you.
We have 4 great moments together.
Mr. Howard.
And I'm going to also say we're going to miss you. Going to miss that loud laugh of yours. But it's been fun. It's been nice working with you the last few years. And I really think we're going to miss your passion for the work, your love of the scholars, and you did it right. And I just want to say congratulations and have a great retirement.
Okay, we move on. Item 10, Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Ms. Roaring. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Division presents items 10.1 to 10.10 this evening for routine consent.
All right, would anybody like to separate out any of these items? Okay. Can we entertain a motion and a second?
So moved.
Any discussion on these items? Call the vote.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Yes. Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my items.
Thank you, Ms. Rourke. Item 11, Mrs. Moriarty. Oh. Okay. Dr. Mack.
Thank you, Board President. I have items 11.1 and 11.2 for your consideration.
Okay, would anybody like to separate out either of these items? Do we entertain a motion and a second? Any discussion on these items? Call the vote.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Moving on, item 12, Assistant Superintendent, Exceptional Learners. Good evening, Mr. Baer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Exceptional Learner Division has one item, 12.1, for the board's consideration.
Okay, could we entertain a motion and a second for this item?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on this item? Call the vote.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Okay, there is no need for a second or third executive session, excuse me. If I can get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. So moved. Second. I think there's no discussion. Call the vote.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Grant? Mr. Harvey? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes. Not bad. Yeah.